Chris, let's start with the news, right? Earl Thomas cut by the Ravens. You talked about it with Mike on PFT. Kind of comes, I would say, not out of left field after the last couple of days what we've heard about him.
Right.
But this is a guy you signed 4 years, $55 million just last season. One of the best to ever do it at that position.
No doubt.
Back when he was with Seattle. And now you cut him. You just set him loose. What's your just initial reaction to how this all went down there?
Well, wow. I mean, because I think to what you're saying, like, we didn't see this coming at the start of training camp. We weren't thinking like, ooh, there might be some issues. You know, usually you can tell when there's issues between a team and a player, whether it's money or they want to be traded or whatever it is, they're not happy. This one, there was no inklings of that, you know, and so I think that's the shocking thing. I think my biggest thing is this, all right? And again, let me say this just on the football aspect. I was shocked that the Baltimore Ravens signed him for as much money as they did last year. I was shocked. I know I said it on this podcast. I said it on PFT. You know, I had made some comments like, you know, Earl Thomas is no longer one of the top safeties in football. You know, I think that's the first thing I'd say to anybody out there listening right now. You know, because I of course, this news happens this weekend. I'm watching all the shows and the highlight shows and looking on, you know, the internet and everything else. How many people are like, oh my gosh, they're letting go of such a quality football player. You know, you don't just let a guy like Earl Thomas go. You don't let good players walk away. Listen, he's a Hall of Famer. As you said, he's a legend. He's awesome. That doesn't mean he's that right now. And I would say he's not that right now. He is not in that class of what we knew him to be with Seattle. And I think that's why Seattle, you know, let him go down the road in test free agency. And, you know, again, last year, we didn't really, I mean, Baltimore to this day is still the only team I heard that made any sort of like offer to the extent of like the kind of money he got from them this past year.
Which is strange. You don't just all of a sudden give someone 4 years and $55 million unless you feel like there's competition for him out there. So they got tricked. They might have gotten tricked by the agent or something happened.
Crazy to me. Crazy to me. Baltimore is, of course, one of the best run organizations in football.
Yeah.
And they don't make mistakes like that very often. To me, yeah, the safety, was it a need? Okay, yeah, certainly. I don't think it was like, oh my gosh, if they don't get some better safety play, they're screwed over. But yeah, they paid Earl Thomas like he was in the prime Earl Thomas. And that's not where he's at anymore. So I think that's the first thing I would say to all those out there, just from the simple football aspect of it. I was always shocked that he was there, signed for that money. Now, the second thing is, like, you don't see these situations come about very often, right? I mean, you haven't seen them. Do you know how hard, I mean, how much you have to be disliked by your team and the organization for them to get rid of you the way that they just got rid of Earl Thomas? I mean, it doesn't happen. Not for a guy, especially that's a Hall of Fame type of football player.
Even if he's not at the level that he was, he's still significantly better than anything else you currently have on your roster.
Yeah, well, yes. I'm not going to say significantly better than anything they got on their roster. No, I'm not going to say
any
that.
replacement for him. No,
oh, okay,
so?
Maybe. I mean, yeah, you know, like, okay, experience-wise, he's definitely better than Deshaun Elliott, who's the guy that's the backup there right now.
Yep.
But like the physical ability-wise, no, it is very, very, very middle of the road for Earl Thomas. It really is.
So you think, like, ability-wise right now, Deshaun Elliott, what has he played? 6 games in his career.
Yeah.
He's had injuries throughout his career, 3rd year with them. Could get up to speed and bring his level of production. They also got a guy that they drafted in the 7th round, Geno Stone, out of Iowa, that they kind of like there with his physical abilities. But
they got Jimmy Smith. They got other guys in the secondary that they can convert to safeties if they have to, certainly.
Wow, so you don't feel like there's that much of a drop-off with those guys who have very little experience?
No, not really, other than, like I said, the experience factor, you know, the quarterbacking of a defense. I mean, Earl's going to be, light years ahead of them that way. He's going to be more comfortable in uncomfortable environments because of the experience and playing in Super Bowls and loud environments and all those things.
Was he making it harder on the other defensive backs?
Well,
that's part of the rumors that are out there, is that he would freelance a little bit too much.
There's no doubt. Yes, I think that was a big issue. And, you know, the more you watch, and especially, you know me, I watch film and do all of that stuff. the physical explosion has just gone from Earl Thomas. So he's not a guy that you can necessarily want to play center field free safety. He can't turn and run like he used to, so he's not as good sideline to sideline for go routes and things like that. His range is not nearly the same. Open field tackling, not as good as it used to be. You could see his speed's not the same. I mean, there's 2 gifts from him last year. One being tossed around by Derrick Henry. Another one, him giving up on a play running after Nick Chubb, who's running for an 80-yard touchdown, right?
Yeah.
So, listen, 4 years ago, none of that happens. Earl Thomas tackles Derrick Henry. Earl Thomas runs down Nick Chubb. Not even close. So, again, it doesn't make me proud to say those type of things. But I think because of the name, and he's the household variety, and he came from the Legion of Boom, I do think people are over-embellishing the talent of the player at this point of his career. Yeah. I do think that. Yeah, I don't think we're at a very middle-of-the-crop type safety as far as the NFL is concerned. And to me, again, the big thing that's going to really, make flashing lights with the Earl Thomas. It didn't go smoothly when he left Seattle. And, of course, this is about as bad as it looks for an NFL team. Again, you have to be really disliked for a team to just basically part ways with you and really make no comments other than we're moving on.
I think it was 17 words.
I mean, there's no hey, Earl did so many great things for our organization. There was no farewell send-off, thanks for everything you did here. Yeah. I think their lack of saying things pretty much said it all, that they didn't want him here. That's all they're going to say about it, and it's over.
And I don't want to let the team off the hook here because, it's a lack of leadership. It broke down somewhere, right? Whether you were not able to bring him into your environment, which from all that we've heard for the Ravens is that they have a great environment there. People like playing there.
No doubt.
And so it does seem to be very player-friendly. But there was a breakdown of leadership somewhere. You just couldn't get him to buy in. And if these were recurring problems, you were not able to nip them in the bud until it got to the point where he's punching other players and you gotta walk away from a 4-year, $55 million deal that has a lot of dead cap space. It gives you a lot of problems now moving forward. So I don't want to take the team completely
But
off the
I don't
hook.
think he bought into them. To me, and again, I don't know
There's nothing they could do, you think?
Well, I think the outside looking in, even going back to last year and him fighting with Brandon Williams early in the season,
Sure.
to me, it always looked like Earl was trying to instill his way or the Seahawk way, and Baltimore was like, no, timeout. We've been awesome on defense for 20 years here. Just come in and be a part of us and be a good leader and a worker, and we'll all hold each other accountable and things like that. And to me, it sounds like Earl was putting himself in his own little stratosphere of, I'm better, I'm going to freelance and do those things. And that shit just doesn't fly with top alpha defenses. Just in my experience.
You think he was able to be that guy with Pete Carroll in Seattle?
A little bit. I think he could freelance a little bit, certainly, because the defense is simple in the Seattle scheme. So he always knew kind of where he had to be, where their weakness was. And he could get away with freelancing because he had 3 rockets up his ass in his prime of his career. Yeah. He was the fastest guy in the field in a lot of games he played in the prime of his career, to where, if he was playing the middle safety position, he was supposed to, cheat this way, right? Let's say Julio Jones is over here and he's supposed to cheat this way. Earl Thomas in his prime, he might turn this way and make the quarterback think, I'm going over here, but really kind of have his eyes and just waiting for the quarterback to make some move, and then he'd put his foot in the ground and fly over there like a missile. I mean, that's where he was great. But, just the way it went down, even the social media, I don't know if you saw the Instagram video that he put out, which first off, I would think is contract detrimental right there. You put practice film, they put practice film on his Instagram account. He's deleted it since because I'm sure his agent was like, dude, you can't put that out there.
Yeah.
But even in the video, I don't know if you've really seen it, and it's hard to tell. He obviously has a breakdown playing middle of the field safety. Lets an inside post go where he should have been over the top probably to help that guy who's covering this inside post, deep crosser. He's underneath it. And then you want the safety to be over the top of it, and the quarterback won't throw it because he's going to go, man, I have to make that too perfect, or that's going to be an interception, or a bam, ball pops in the air interception, right? Earl wasn't in the right place. To me, too, the reaction of Earl on the video, I mean, to turn around and rips his own helmet off, throws it, and starts yelling at guys.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not cool leadership anywhere in football. I mean, nowhere. I mean, that wouldn't go down anywhere, especially with a bunch of alpha male Baltimore Ravens guys. And then when you're the one in the wrong, that's going to really piss people off too. And we don't know this, but if he was in the wrong a lot already, a few times in camp and freelancing, like the reports we're hearing, that stings more to those players. They're like, what, you're showing me up? You've messed up 74 times in camp already, and no one's done that to you. And now here you messed up and you're going to show us up. That's just not going to go over. And, you know, my last thing I'll say, just with defenses like this, because I got to be around it a little in Tampa Bay and with the Tennessee Titans even, but Tampa Bay especially, because they won the Super Bowl. It was Derek Brooks and Simeon Rice and Warren Sapp and Booger McFarland and Rondé Barber and John Lynch. You know, none of them, even if Warren Sapp was a little bit of a pain in the ass, right, and not your, like, perfect Boy Scout, none of them held themselves higher than the rest of the defense. They all knew they were going to have to do their part. They all knew they were going to have to be accountable to each other. John Lynch knew if he messed up, Sapp and Simeon Rice and Derek Brooks are going to look at him and be like, what the f*** you doing, dude? And if Warren Sapp didn't play his gap in the run game, John Lynch and Derek Brooks and Rondé Barber are going to be looking at Warren Sapp going, what the f***, that's your gap. And that's what a good defense does, and it just sounds like there was a little too much freelance and they'd had enough of it.
I mean, that might speak to a lack of other leaders on the defense, too, right? Where you had this other high-profile guys who could keep each other accountable.
Sure.
I mean, maybe Earl Thomas thought he was the only one.
Maybe he
was
did.
doing that, and that was his role to a certain extent.
Well, that's where you always, and it's a great question and a great point, and that's where you have to be careful about what kind, like these type of players. You have to be careful about their attitude and how they get infused into your locker room, right?
Yeah.
And how, you know, what kind of guy are they going to be here? Because you're right, there's no Terrell Suggs there anymore. Yeah. There's no Ray Lewis. So they don't have that guy that's maybe that, like, I've been here for 10 years and this is how we do things. And, you know, so maybe there was a little bit of that, certainly. But to me, it also.
And maybe they did hope that Earl Thomas could bring.
Yes,
some of that leadership.
But obviously it didn't go the right way, and that's the issue. I had something else I wanted to say there, but I can't remember what it was.
I threw you off. Well, I'll give you a second here.
We'll figure it out, don't worry.
So Pete wants to know where he would be if you did a hypothetical wide receiver, or I'm sorry, a safety ranking.
Yeah. I mean, it's deep in the middle. Like, okay.
You're talking 15 to 20, maybe lower.
If we're just going to like 32 free safeties in football, right?
Yep.
We're just doing that.
Yep.
I mean, yes, it's very much in the middle. Listen, I can go through teams here right now and just go, I could do whatever way you wanted to. I could sit here and go through the NFC East and go,
well,
I know you don't want it that way. But I'm going to say, here's the teams that I think can logically use him. All right, I'll split it out that way.
Okay.
Maybe the Jets. There's one spot there that maybe, you know. But the kid they traded for to get, Jamal Adams and the guy they got back from Seattle, he's pretty talented. He's faster and more explosive than Earl Thomas is at this point of his career. So it's not like it's a shoo-in, but the Jets, okay, maybe. Dolphins, all right? I'll throw them in there. They got nothing like a proven commodity as far as the safety position's considered. The Browns maybe makes sense. I'm not sure I'm totally sold on it. They do have some veteran guys there. They did draft Grant Delpit. They got Carl Joseph, who's basically like Earl Thomas, but 4 years ago, really fast that way. But they do play the Seattle scheme. Joe Woods is there. He just came from San Francisco. That could make sense, maybe.
You think that's important for him?
I think those Seattle scheme guys might look at him a little differently to just go like, man, he knows our defense. He'll get everybody in the right spot. I mean, gosh, he's one of the pioneers of this position for this defense, right? So I think there'll be a little bit of a love affair between those real Seattle scheme guys. They'd be like, oh, I can have Earl Thomas. I remember in 2014 when he was the best. You know what I mean? They'll get caught up with that. The Texans maybe have a spot. The Colts and Jaguars, I think you could argue there, and they both run the Seattle scheme, all right? So there's three teams of Seattle scheme. I go to the NFC. could go Eagles maybe. It's a maybe with the Eagles. Rodney McLeod is a better free safety than Earl Thomas. Now, not all teams have like that free safety, strong safety. Sometimes they just have two safeties and both guys do both, right? Philadelphia is a little that way where it's like, okay, you could have two Earl Thomases in that defense or two Rodney McLeods.
Sure.
Lions, Bucks, I look at those two to go, all right, yeah, there's a lot of unproven commodities in those two secondaries to where I could see maybe a Matt Patricia going, man, I don't trust my young safeties or some of these guys that are in here. I need to get somebody in here that can learn all my defenses and do it all the right way. And then the Panthers and the Cardinals. I mean, after that, I don't see a whole lot of teams. And listen, like I said, I wrote Texans maybe. I wrote Browns maybe. I wrote maybe one spot with the Jets. I wrote Eagles maybe. You know, so it's not as like...
He's just not an upgrade for enough teams.
No, it's not going to be an upgrade from enough teams. It is not. And like, again... I know this has been very negative on Earl Thomas. It doesn't make me. I know.
Here.
Well, it doesn't make me.
Have you ever
proud.
met him before?
Yeah.
Have you talked to him?
I have, but it doesn't make me proud
Did it go
to say
well
this.
when you talked to him?
It was okay. I mean, you know, it was just a hi. How are you?
It will not go well next time.
Probably not.
If he's seen it.
Probably not. I mean, but you know.
But it seems like that's not unusual for him and his interactions.
Well, and you know, this isn't my end. I'm not unusual either. I mean, I just call it like I see on the football field. And am I wrong sometimes? Yeah, I am. I mean, as you know, but damn, I feel pretty good that I'm, you know, pretty spot on with my evaluation.
He's got it's a huge red flag for him, for any team.
That's going to be an issue going forward.
Need, it's a huge red flag now because you look at the culture in Baltimore and be like, man, that seems like a pretty good culture there.
Exactly.
And if you were an outlier there and the team kicked you off, and they didn't want you around, that's a problem. You hope that if you're the signing team that he's going to be able to learn from that, because that really hasn't happened to him before, although you said it kind of did with Seattle. They ran him out there.
It didn't go out in the best way. He didn't go out. I mean, he gave Pete Carroll the middle finger, remember, as he's going off the field.
And that's a problem.
And then also ran into the Dallas Cowboy locker room after his last game and told them to sign him after he was still on the Seattle Seahawks. Like, to me, those are not cool things. Those are things teams are going to look at now and put a little bit more into it, let alone, like you're talking about, teams are really going to look at this one right now and go, whoa, like Baltimore did this to him? Do we really want this guy? Right. And here's the point I wanted to make before that I got distracted with.
Let's come back. Okay, good.
I was with a safety in a similar situation to Earl Thomas. I played with Brian Dawkins, right? Late in his career. He wasn't the Brian Dawkins of the Philadelphia Eagles and Wolverine and like, whoa, it's either him, Ed Reed, or Troy Polamalu are the best safeties in football, and like that's it. There's no other conversation. He was still good, middle of the road-ish, like a Earl Thomas, but he came in and was a leader with positivity and goodness and never held himself like, I'm Brian Dawkins and I'm just going to do whatever the I want on this play because I'm going to the Hall of Fame, all you, right? He never did that. You know, there has to be that blend at some point in your career where you have to go, wait, I'm not, you know, I'm not the man anymore. Since I can't be showing up for meetings 3 minutes late. You know, that was okay when I was the man and, you know, I went out there and made 7 plays on Sunday that nobody else could make in football.
Yep.
Okay. But now I'm missing 7 normal plays every Sunday and not that guy. And that's just not cool. Like Derek Brooks, he wasn't the same Derek Brooks when I first got there as when I left. Right. His play had gotten down, and his attitude was a little different because of that. Because he knew, like, wait, I can't always be the guy, like, leading the charge and rah, 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 rah. I'm, you know, one of the bottom starters on our defense now. So I have to adjust my approach and how I talk to people. That's part of being a football player. It's part of, like, surviving in a locker room and being a leader and being diplomatic that way.
Trying to make a transition.
Exactly.
Which some players are able to do, I can imagine. And if you come in and you're Earl Thomas and you're thinking of your leadership role as being a guy that's going to get on top of other players and yell at them, and I'm the man, or is your leadership role a part of being the guy that's going to bring up these other players and coach them along and pass the torch, if you will?
Yes.
It doesn't sound like Earl Thomas was there for the Ravens at all. But you don't think, last thing, you don't think their defense is going to drop off a cliff? You don't think it makes them that much worse?
I don't. You know, they're going to have to figure that out. They're going to miss some stuff with Earl Thomas as far as, you know, like we talked about, his ability to diagnose plays, his experience, some of the mental aspect, maybe his ability to disguise. But I'm just telling you, in a lot of big situations last year, You know, to me, more times than not, it looked like they were trying to hide Earl Thomas rather than going, we're going to put you in the spot to make the play, right? That's what the Jets do with Jamal Adams. Or like, they're going to go, we're going to put you right here because we think the ball's going to go right here and you'll make it happen. To me, it was more of like, we think the ball's going to go over here, so we're going to put you over here this year. And again, I don't feel cool saying this stuff, but that's just the facts of the matter to me.
If you see him in person next time,
he's going to whoop my ass.
Call me up. I want to be there. I want to be there in the room taking video.
Well, yeah. I don't think his agent already doesn't like me. I know that. His agent got mad at me last year because I said he wasn't a top 5 safety in football.
Oh, so that relationship.
I was supposed to do an interview with Dwayne Haskins, who's represented by that same agent, and he didn't. He took Dwayne Haskins' interview away from me.
Oh, really?
Right.
This is inside
agent.
baseball.
This
is inside football right here.
I was right.
Okay, so Earl Thomas is out there. We'll see if anyone picks him up.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.